That's what a tumor means. So even a plant can have a tumor, a tree can have a tumor. And so because of this uncontrolled growth, a tumor is formed. And so most of the cancers, they form tumors, but not all tumors are cancerous. Tumors not being cancerous means that they may not be that harmful. Okay. So even though it's a swollen couple of cells, it may not be that harmful. So let's look at a couple. So a tumor, if it is benign, then it won't spread. This a tumor which is benign, it will be a non-cancerous. So when I use the word cancerous, that means it will not, it has to spread. And if it's non-cancerous, then it will not spread. It is not able to break certain kind of membranes that is holding it. Now in this case, it's a circle, but it's not always a circle. It can simply be a lining, can be simply be an extra membrane here. And so they are not able to spread. They are really contained. But a malignant one is able to spread. It is able to break through this membrane, and it just can make certain conditions that it is able to make and break through the membrane, and that is cancerous. So a malignant tumor is cancerous. So anything that's benign might be a tumor, but it may not be necessarily cancerous. So if it is benign, then it will have the suffix of oma, so adenoma. Okay, so it will end with an oma. That means it's contained. It's not so serious right now, and it can be taken care of quickly. But if it is a malignant tumor and it has the capability to spread, then it will have the name of carcinoma, or it will have the name of a sarcoma. So such as the name is adenocarcinoma. So let's look at how do we name these cancers? How do we, where do the cancers come from? So how do we classify? So its classification of these cancers is based on the tissue of origin. What is the tissue of origin? Where is it? Where did it start? And so which is the starting location. So if you see here, there are four types: epithelial tissue, connective tissue and muscle, brain tissue, and hematological. So epithelial tissue, that is, and we'll look at each of them in a tad bit more detail. So epithelial tissues, if the cancer starts from epithelial, which is the most of the cancers, then it can be either benign and it can be either malignant. So it would be called as a papilloma or an adenoma, or it could be a carcinoma. So just to give you an overview before we get into the details. And so if it is in a muscle tissue, muscle means it could be connective like bone, cartilage. Then in benign, they're contained. They're not very serious. They can still be fixed. They can still be treated. Some of them are rare. Some of them are common. So fibroma, osteoma, rhabdomyoma. But if it becomes malignant, then it is called as a sarcoma. So sarcoma is the name given to connective tissue and muscle cancers. The word glial refers to brain. So glial cells, and I'll show you a diagram later on, that they give rise to brain cancer. So brain cancers will be glioma, meningeal sarcoma, or meningioma if it is not very, if it's just benign, and retina, and I'll talk about retina and retinoblastoma. So these are brain central nervous system related. The other one is blood and lymphatic system, blood cancers, leukemia, lymphoma. These are all blood cancers, so hematological cancers. But lymphoma is from the lymphatic system, and these are leukemia are in the lymphocytes in the blood. So they can start in any one of these, but then they can move on. So epithelial are the major ones. So glandular and ductal epithelium, this means that it is the coverings, this surface one is the covering of the organs, and these are for ducts. Ducts, like your cells in the intestinal lining, they have to secrete enzymes. So they will have duct to secrete enzymes. So let's look at that in slightly more detail. So epithelial cancers, they make up the majority. All right. So about 80% of all cancers are all epithelial. So they're all epithelial cancers. And what is epithelial? They are on the surface of the liver, surface of all the organs. It's just on the surface of all the organs. And these will be, solid malignancies. And the hematological malignancies will all be, blood related, and so those will be here. And so some of them are also, yeah, they're the ones that are down here. These are the only ones. So let me just go to the next one. This is the same. Hmm. So when we do the cancer types in the next talk, when I'm doing the cancer types, that's where you will have more details on the individual cancer types, which is the names that I gave you, the sarcoma or the adenocarcinoma, etc. So we will look at all the details of the individual names. But right now, so far, you understand that they are based on if they are carcinoma or adenocarcinoma or sarcoma or a myeloma or leukemia lymphoma, then these are the ones that are most scary. These are the ones that are the more deadly ones. So those are the malignancies. Okay. So that we will save for our next talk. So the next one, I just need to know how much time I have. Um, Sorry. So what is the process? How does it become a normal cell, become a cancer cell? What gives rise to this primary tumor to go to other places and become tumors in other places? What are those hallmark capabilities? This is a very special word I would like you to pay attention to. Hallmark capabilities. What are the hallmark? That means those have to be those fixed properties. And so if a cell has those hallmark properties of cancer, then how does it work? Is it a multi-step process? So let's look at this. And so in order to understand this, you really need to understand something about the um, risk factors. So something a little bit about the risk factors need to be understood in order to understand the full mechanism about why the hallmarks are there. So these are risk factors. That means they result from, these kind of risk factors, about 9 of them here, that lead to either result in genetic mutations and they drive transformation. So please note this very special word. The word is transformation. And the word transformation means that the cell has been transformed into a kind of cell that is abnormal. So transformation is a very specific word. So in a normal cell to become cancer cell, in mammalian cells, transformation is a very specific meaning. So these can always be tobacco, microbes, bacteria, obesity, family history, and so all of these together. And so some of these are, alcohol, your occupational exposure, exposure to asbestos, etc., and a poor diet, okay, poor diet, obesity, etc. These are that are known. And so what happens is that when these risk factors, the burden of these risk factors give rise to that genetic mutation. And so what will happen is that some of these cells that need to die, generally these cells will damage and will die. They will just not die anymore because they have acquired that genetic mutation, and they don't have to die anymore. So generally, if a cell normally a cell will die by suicide. It's very, very normal that a cell will die by suicide, but in this situation, in a cancerous cell, they will acquire a mutation. So the first mutation, then there might be some of them, not all of them, will acquire a second mutation. Some of them will acquire a third mutation. And a mutation is a change in its DNA.